So thank you for coming. Welcome. This class is on the theme of exertion and recuperation, one of the big themes in the Laban Bartenieff Movement System through which to understand a few things. And the way I will take it today is in two different directions. One of it will do mostly this one direction, because you could think about the word exertion as doing, and you could think about exerting as in like really exerting, like a high intensity exertion, you know? Or you could just think about it as doing. And you could think about recuperation as not doing, as resting. You know, you recuperate at night and your cells can renew themselves, and there's a recuperation from a not doing. Now, that's one way of thinking about the word recuperation, but as it exists as an exertion recuperation, not one or the other as an interconnected idea, I like to think of I and my colleagues like to consider recuperation as being something that is different to what you were doing. So it can be thought about as doing and doing something different. And so we'll explore the doing and doing differently through body, through shape, through effort and space, through these kinds of questions and topics, but also with an idea of the rate of that change. From exerting to recuperating, could that happen quite quickly? Could it be more gradual? So that's one idea that we'll play with. And then the last kind of topic area of coming into this subject, and this is absolutely not a definitive workshop on this topic because it's way bigger than this, but the other way I'd like to explore today is the idea of if you're in the doing and you would like to maintain it, what is it that you need to keep doing, to keep reinitiating the doing that has a little micro recuperation in it? So that there's a back and forth, not in like extreme opposites, but something that keeps being able to reinitiate itself into that doing that you were doing that you want to maintain. So that's pretty much how I've been thinking about exertion recuperation for us today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to unmute and ask them. Otherwise, we will rock and roll with something. So let's start with body and take a moment to shift into your space and come into whatever movement you would like to do with the instruction to energize and awaken and enliven your whole body. Not really about parts, but a sense of the whole body. What would you like to do or feel like you need to do to come into a sense of the whole of your body? Connecting to breath, tapping into your base of support, sensing where your body is on the ground. Noticing where gravity can fall through your body parts. But continually finding a sense of the whole of your body. Doing whatever you would like to do. And then choose one part of your body that you're going to lead your movement from. So initiating from that body part. You might continue doing what the movement was before, but you're choosing to initiate from one body part. Well, that might take you into a different exploration of different kinds of movement. And keep connecting to breath support, sensing the weight of your body. And choose another part. to initiate your movement from that part of your body. And again, it can be whatever movement you like, big, small, early in the morning movements. A sense of exploring. And changing to another body part. Sensing that body part and giving it some direction, some sense of initiation. And the movement might sequence from that initiation and through into other body parts, or that part might continue leading you along some journey. And after a certain point, you might feel like you want to change. And so make this last change of body part initiation when you wish, rather than me directing that. Maybe you've made another change already. Go ahead and make another change when you feel like you would like to, when the exertion of that initiation has run its course. Maybe you feel like actually you could stay with that initiation for quite some time. And changing wouldn't be so useful or necessary or interesting. But let's make a game with ourselves to change the initiation more quickly. So the exertion of one part leading becomes another part leading, becomes another part leading and another part leading. And it doesn't have to be that the movement is fast, the movement could be very slow, but you keep finding different parts in your body to initiate. And that you keep changing your mind. Taking your mind's eye through into different parts of your body. So the exertion is now continuing to change. And then go back to sensing the whole of your body, taking whatever movement you would like. And let's find heel rock on the ground, lying with the legs long, mobilizing at the ankle joints to send a rock through to the skull. Feeling the different parts and relationship. And feel free to take a pause from heel rock whenever you wish. And finding an initiation right at the end of the exhale. And let's use heel rock to explore some different possibilities of breath. Let's take an exhale through the mouth, or through a hiss through the teeth. Feel free to pause heel rock whenever you wish for a moment of recuperation through not doing. And then there are some variations also of a supine hook, flat-footed heel rock, or a heel rock where more of the knees are activating. And carry on with exploring the possible breath of heel rock. And you might feel interested to take that into some vocalization, some sound, or some yawning. And if heel rocking is becoming very exerting, you can make even a shorter interval of the doing and the not doing by finding the heel rock as you exhale and make sound, and then pause or rest as you inhale. And seeing what this different pattern of exertion recuperation might bring. Maybe a different awareness to the right side and left side of your body. Any areas of tension that might be letting go through a longer stretch of time. Heel rocking or not heel rocking. And of course, you might change the angle of the arms, the angle of the legs, making this an exploration for you. Great, so let's take a version of heel rock on the front, finding toes tucked under, finding a rock onto the front. And if you'd like to still explore a more audible breath, go ahead. You can explore also this upper-lower rock with the palms onto the floor, pressing the forearms into the ground, toes tucked under, pressing between hands to feet, feet to hands. And so here we can name also the exertion of being on your back for so long, finding a recuperation on the front surface. And then maybe being on the front surface becomes exerting. I'm adjusting where my hands are to see how that changes the relationship of my palms to my shoulder blade, pressing between hands and feet, or just having the hands leading, or just the feet leading. So taking a gradual progression of rocking, From lying down, let's find rocking in different positions. Through different body parts. Through different initiations. So exploring for yourself some different kinds of rocks that might be possible in different positions. You might find yourself pushing from different body parts. Areas of tension that you may have noticed in heel rock. You can use this rocking as a kind of self-massage if you wish. As a more functional muscular release activity. Or it might be interesting or about where you can find the push from to find your rock. How can a rock express itself differently? So you hear how the themes obviously overlap and interconnect. And so let's take this rocking, allowing it to travel through the whole body, where the arms might get to be involved, even if the rocking is more in the basic support. How can, if arms are not connected to the ground, how might they also participate? And from this rocking, let's introduce a sense of scatter and gather. So the rocking might become a scattering, and the gathering might bring you back into rocking. If you're not sure what I mean by scattering and gathering, it's more a sense of sending the energy out and gathering it in. And you can do that with the whole body. Or you could just scatter more with part. It's easier to sense with the whole body. But it's still possible in other parts. So if you're still rocking into scatter-gather, that's totally great. If the rocking's disappeared, no worries. But we're doing a crossfade of activities into scattering and gathering, which may include a certain amount of rocking still. And you choose when these things happen. Gathering might be far slower than what I'm showing. We'll carry on with scatter-gather for a little bit longer. And occasionally throw in an active stillness into the mix. So whatever scatter, gather activity is going on, occasionally giving yourself an active stillness. A sense of resonating pause, scattering and gathering on a very small micro amount. And maybe in those pauses, it's a good moment to check in with breath. And from your active stillness, you might start to turn on your attention to how you start moving from that stillness, whether it's gentle, gradual, slow. Whether from active stillness you find more quickness. And so playing in your own way, scatter, gather might continue for a bit. You might re-find rocking. Let's turn the attention to our use of time. It might already be in there. Definitely is in there because we're making decisions all the time. But that you make a study of the use of your time in movement. From an active stillness, how quickly or gradually does the next thing appear? As you're exploring speed, acceleration, deceleration, punctuated by active stillness, let's find a little bit more relationship to the experience of weight, to this strong and light continuum of our body, intending, finding strength, and finding lightness. Kind of effort intent, qualitative exploration, as well as active stillness. So finding moments of lightness long periods of lightness. Finding moments of strong weight. Or maybe finding a longer duration of working with strong weight. And finding also the progression of this movement, whether it's got this ongoingness in it, this free flow, with quickness, with sustained, with strong, or with light. Checking in with the flow of your body and your experience of this attitude and its progression. And how controlled that also might be, especially when you come to an active stillness. There might be this feeling of arresting the flow and then letting it go again. Or on your way to stillness, process of finding. Carrying on your exploration with these relationships to flow, to time, to wait. Making the contrasts in your own way. They might be more abrupt, they might be more gradual. You're welcome to go away from any of the material that we explored so far, but if the resources of gathering and scattering are useful, or this remembering of pulsing, of rocking is helpful to get you back into something, feel free to revisit those ideas. And check with breath. How might breath support, or even some vocalization, support this exploration? And as you're moving, starting to notice what you see. Carrying on whatever it is you're doing, but seeing at the same time. If that starts to make you a bit dizzy, change your movement to recuperate somehow within the activity. Maybe the recuperation in seeing is to see one thing and carry the movement on. Or maybe the recuperation is to close your eyes and see nothing and deliberately go back into sensing. And then to open your eyes and sense your seeing. Can you see as much as you possibly can? How does activating sight from scanning, pinpointing, taking it all in, affect your movement? And so working a little bit more with the use of the eyes and the use of sight. The use of the eyes can be about their movement, giving you a journey. Or the use of sight might be this question of what you're seeing, how you're seeing, responding maybe still to your own sensation, not necessarily to what you see. But you might get informed also by the visual world around you. And if the exertion of using sight becomes too much, as in disifying or straining, you can go back to closed eyes, or even moments of stillness, finding active stillness as recuperation also. And the things that you see might be very close to you. And they might be much further away. And you can allow this exploration of near and far to support your movement also. You might find the affinity of moving in the far reach of your kinesphere as you're looking into the far distance. Moving more in the near reach as you see the things close to you. And to zoom out and to zoom in. More abruptly could be fairly new experience in your movements, or maybe it's very familiar. Or maybe making that journey a little bit more gradual is the thing for now. We'll take a couple more minutes playing with this overlapping of space effort to the attention to the space, the sense of sight and how that informs movement and quality, and the use of kinesphere. This idea of sight being about reach space. And it's up to you when you want to shift in the tasks that you're playing with. You might start to include the zones of your kinesphere in your awareness, the right side or the left side, high zone, low zone, front zone, back zone. And so finding yourself exploring a zone, including eyes, including reach space. And recuperating from those choices however you wish, and whenever you wish. If vocalization becomes useful in this, go ahead. And then please take some recuperation, whatever recuperation would be for you now. And give a bit of time for recuperating before we move into a similar unfolding from that last task, but felt like it was a good moment to go recuperate however you would like. And if you have any questions, it's probably a good moment to check in if anyone has any questions. So, let's come to explore. We'll carry on moving. You don't need to see me necessarily unless you have a question and you want to ask. Let's do some more exploration of kinesphere to carry on this exploration of how I've been framing exertion and recuperation within quite sort of narrow confines. We were working through some elements of body and some elements of effort, life, and dynamics. Let's explore a little bit this idea of directions in the kinesphere radiating from your body in some particular direction, so that you have a pathway that is established from the center outwards. And you might consider its opposite to be like through you, as if, you know, if you're putting a skewer through a potato, it's kind of going through and out the other side. So playing with a recuperation of a direction being literally its kind of opposite from a central pathway, and choose a few of those to play with. Okay, what is down here, and then what is, maybe it's kind of opposite. If that line was to go through your whole body, and then where else have you established that pull in your kinesphere? And this is a bit what Laban referred to as countertension. So that as you take one direction, you have its opposite also being articulated. And this is an opportunity to play a little bit more into that counter pull and make that the thing before you can recuperate in the first direction. Hopefully that's clear. You're choosing some direction in your kinesphere and then playing with its opposite. And that might be through the gestures, through the limbs, or it might even be simply through finding your torso, this juiciness of core, traveling in that opposite direction to where it was that you just went. And that might find you moving in different ways, in different places, and maybe initiating through different body parts. To make those pathways. So there's an exertion of a direction, and you're finding some counter pull, which could feel like a recuperation or another exertion. And I'm not being super strict about them having to always be central pathways. I'm using that as a guide for myself, but just noticed I made a peripheral pathway. Oh, never mind. The central pathway is useful to give you the opportunity to maybe find yourself going off balance. And you could try that sitting or lying or standing. Doesn't have to be standing. I mean, a very simple expression of this could be the thigh lift or the pre-thigh lift, you know, extending the thigh, bringing the foot back in again. Okay, let's also find some peripheral pathways. So recuperating from all those central pathways with some describing of the edges around you, and that might be with the limbs, with the legs, with the arms. Finding yourself describing the edges of your kinesphere at different reach spaces. And notice if that feels recuperative from the previous kinesphere gains, or whether it feels even more exerting, or just the same. And then let's take that into some more transverse pathways and transverse movement, describing all the air around you, allowing your body to carve and mold and shape into your space. Finding the movement that's somewhere right between the edge and the far reach of your kinesphere, on its way towards or away from your sense of center. And that might take you more off balance, or not. And then let's recuperate with some of those central pathways again, establishing one direction from the core of your kinesphere. Could be even quite a low level, doesn't have to be always at the middle level. So to find one direction and then it follows it. Which is taking a sense of pathway maybe into travelling. And you can choose to change those pulls in space whenever you wish. Great. So we visited quite a few different strategies or tactics for playing with exertion, recuperation, making quite quick changes along a narrow parameter. And now I leave it to you to make some changes in what you're doing. I'm not sure if you ever played this on card journeys of word disassociation game. So someone would say red and you had to say nothing to do with red and say something very different. So your movement exploration is to make phrases of different lengths that don't have much to do with each other. You're doing one thing and then you'll do something else that is a recuperation from it through doing something very different. And it's up to you what very different means. So going from the palette of all we've been playing with to keep surprising yourself through a new form of contrast. That's everything. And you can do it for a short little thing and then something new comes and then something new. You might stay with something for a while in order to build a quality, then to contrast it. So, up to you. Let's spend a few moments making abrupt changes with a sense of huge contrast between what it is you're doing. And you've got hopefully many ways into what contrast different might be. Off you go. And again, vocalization might help you. By changing the voice, you might end up with some new expressions through body. So it's less about, you might find yourself transforming something into something else and a gradual change. But just notice that as a lovely strategy and then try and break it and give yourself a very different chapter of the book. And remembering the different body parts we had, the idea of different initiation through the body. Different relationships to space. Different usages of your weights, your progression. And as you're doing what you're doing, you might find yourself in some particular action that you enjoy. That's like, okay, I'd like to stay here for a while. Please don't keep making me change. And so your investigation is to get to know it and get to know what you would need to keep doing to maintain it and find the exertion recuperation rhythm much closer. How can you recuperate within that to keep it going? It might be a very functional movement, or it might be some other kind of action. Remembering breath support. If you were to keep doing this movement for the next 10 minutes, what would you need to keep doing or doing slightly differently inside it to make it possible? Without changing it so much. What can you discover in that movement? And whenever you get really exhausted at that one, feel free to change to another exploration, abrupt change. Oh goodness, the abrupt change of thunder outside is happening. And then getting to know that material. What would you need to do to find recuperation in it so that you could keep it going? What's the breath doing? What are the eyes doing? What's the quality of this? What's the voice of this? And we'll carry on this for another minute or so. And when you feel like you've exhausted it, find something else. And when you've finished something of this last exploration, you feel like you've exhausted it, find yourself in heel rock. And if there's still more to explore in it, that's okay. And if you're doing heel rock with the legs long, it's up to you how much of the knees you would like to use. Checking in with voice again, or a sigh through the mouth. And noticing breath support. And when you're ready, find a moment of stillness. Just let go. And then gently roll yourself to come together for a bit of a chat about exertion and recuperation. So to recap, we just did a very whistle-stop tour through contrasts of different kinds. And I would be curious to hear if you have any questions or comments.